just for future viewers who might one day stumble upon this, we're kind of doing something a little different this time around. We've been talking about doing some one-on-one gaming for a while, and I thought it'd be interesting to do like a sort of a podcast type thing and kind of see how we can push with improv and immersion and do some storytelling. And to that end, we're going to be doing messing around with the Dungeon World system, which is I was in a recent conversation with some people, like reading a conversation talking about like simulation and narrative and all this stuff, and Dungeon World falls into a place where instead of manipulating characters in a simulated world, you're manipulating storylines in a cooperative storytelling space. So it's definitely going to be a little different than the stuff we normally play, and even like Aso and I have played in Dungeon World before, but even then that was a bit more dungeon crawly than this is going to be. So we've decided to set this in a world in which winter has become an apocalyptic event, or even during the summer. It's like a winter here in the northern United States or Canada, and the winters are like an Arctic hellscape. The world is freezing for whatever reason. Maybe we'll discover the reason, maybe we won't, but it's a world in which bare survival is a constant struggle. So you decided to play a druid, and I want to say something real quick about this. I was reading through some OSR stuff, some Zero Edition D&D, old school Renaissance stuff. The way they talk about druids, they talk about druid orders. But Dungeon World asks the question, are there other druids, capital D druids? No. The PC is the only capital D druid. There might be other people with similar abilities, but you are the only person with these abilities. And the same is true of other Dungeon World classes, but as capital D druid, do you imagine that there are other people out there with similar abilities?
I think it's likely.
Is it kind of like just scattered around, or is there like an organized class of people?
I think at this stage, the natural magic maybe isn't formalized in a meaningful way yet. So there are people sort of stumbling onto these secrets, but...
So it's kind of a new phenomenon.
Yeah, I think so.
And we talked about a Bronze Age kind of world. Like your home turf was going to be the mountains, and this is sort of a extended valley between these imposing mountains on the left, and there are mountains further to the east of this map we're seeing now. And so this is sort of an extended valley. So you find yourself in this village, and I'm going to post some images here. I'm going to try to do it, in Roll20. Of the sort of northern Bronze Age houses and villages, and just how things were constructed, and how sort of beginning to become complex everything was. And you can see the outlines of modern techniques, and there's simple farming, and like there's one central village in this valley. What is the name of this village? Or is that one of those questions you want me to answer? I know naming things is not your favorite part of this.
I think the name should contain the word basin. but
Basin? Mhm.
I'm not sure in what capacity.
So what's a feature around here? Is it is this was this once muddy ground? Was this like when the town was founded, maybe before the frost? Was this a windy place? Was this a sort of a muddy place, hard ground, hard to survive, rocky? What kind of feature did this little area of where you guys have created the city, created this it's a stead is what they call them in Dungeon World, and I think that applies here. Just this homestead of maybe 8 or 9 of these houses, 8 or 9 of these conical houses, each housing like an extended family. So there's maybe parents, grandparents, and children, maybe even in-laws and things like that.
I think prior to the whatever caused this winter condition, I think this probably would have been marshland.
You know what? Let's call it the Frostfall, because I think that's a cool name.
Okay.
We need a
So
name.
prior to the Frostfall, I think this was probably marshland, but in the immediate following of the Frostfall, people were looking for the lowest points they could get to for shielding it from wind. And so, as such, this was this is the lowest point in sort of this lowland.
So, what do you think about Black Marsh? This, because it was originally named, say, for this marshy black earth that grew things so well.
Yeah, I think that's good.
And of course now, the ground is hard and frozen, and these little spelt farms have to be dug out with mattocks. You know, these bronze mattocks just having to chop up the earth before they can even begin to plow.
Let me ask you this:
Mhm.
if the town is called Black Marsh,
Mhm.
is anyone still alive to understand the context of that name?
I'd imagine there's. We talked about maybe like the grandparents, like your character's grandparents could have been alive or could have been a child before the Frostfall, and so maybe they carry on the name and they talk about, you know, they have some distorted story for it from a distant memory.
Okay.
And maybe, maybe they spin yarns about how the soil was magic. It was this black blood of the earth that fed all crops. But now it's only the spelt and barley that can survive the cold summers. You get a few animals, probably like woolly aurochs. You know, these sort of primeval cows, essentially. Primeval bulls. Does your land have horses?
Not anymore.
Because I can see, you know, you're getting milk, you're getting maybe slaughtering every other aurochs, but just keeping them around because they can provide food, but the horses can only move things, and it's like, oh well, we have to do that on our own now, I guess. Maybe they were the first to go during the long early Frostfall.
Yeah, I think the cost of maintaining a horse when provisions are so thin maybe led to there being a viewed uselessness, maybe
Mhm.
6 or 8 months out of the year.
Add one more little inspirational image here. I love Roll20, but there are file restrictions sometimes. They're really annoying. Yeah, so maybe your village is not... Is your village fortified like this, or is it more open?
I think there's a fortification that's built every winter out of impacted snow.
Okay. Does it get warm enough in the summer to melt the snow, or is it sort of... a light dusting always remains?
I think there are definitely days where it gets warm enough to the direct sunlight starts melting the fortifications, and they need to be rebuilt at the beginning of every fall.
I wonder if it's hard, maybe starting to build some hard ice under there, but that's interesting.
As the years go by, the fortifications become thicker and stronger.
So, does anyone in town know about your powers?
Definitely not.
Wasn't there one person who you shared a bond with, I believe? You can ignore those alternate bonds for the moment. We'll mess with those, perhaps. Expand it a bit. I showed them a secret right of the land. Was that having to do with your powers, or was that some sort of secret knowledge that you gained because you're one with the land and its spirits?
Well, Garrick has always had something of a green thumb.
Mm-hmm.
The growing of crops is only trusted to those who have proven themselves, and he is something of a prodigy in that area. As such, he grew to know Sybil quite well through tilling the hard frozen earths, and maybe drunkenly one night, Garrick may have let on to something more than he should have. These studies he's been doing in his private time. Experiments, maybe.
Yeah, let's do a quick kind of overview of what your abilities are, if you don't mind. I'm gonna click some things, if that's okay.
Sure.
You got Born of the Soil, which is about shape-shifting. That basically you're so in tune with the land, and you picked Towering Mountains, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll think up some animals that would be kind of native to this area that you can transform into there. It's interesting how you have two abilities with basically saying the same thing here. But this is physical form of something you've studied, so you can always become anything of the land that is your native land. But obviously the second one is you can study a foreign animal and become it. Interesting.
Right.
Okay. And Spirit Tongue. Yes. So those animals of your land, of the mountain biome, basically, can understand and speak to them. Do you speak to them? Do they speak to you in words, or do you simply understand the emotion and intention behind their squawks, their growls?
There's a feeling that gets internalized. There's a sort of an empathetic link that allows them to communicate simple ideas and needs.
Ah, so you can also not only study actual animals, but study the spirits themselves to take on their form. So, which of these powers do you think slipped out to Sybil?
I think that there may have been. I think that probably Spirit Tongue. Uh, in passing, Sybil noticed that Garrick happened to be talking to one of the local fauna.
And actually getting a response. You know, it's maybe not too wild to think someone talking with an animal, but the animal reacting like they're in a conversation. That's very different. So, your powers are not known to the village. So what do you, and you plant? You're one of the farmers. Do you ever go out on hunts or out on missions to gather firewood?
It's a tricky thing for Garrick because the town views him as a required resource and is therefore very protective of him. But he finds his way outside the city walls more often than he certainly should.
Mm.
And it's in these times that he sort of communes with nature.
So one day you are like the day's tilling is done. Like you're maybe working on a oh yes, sorry. Your family, are there any alive?
Yeah. Both of Garrick's parents have made it through to this point. Garrick lost his grandparents in the Frostfall, but was taken into a community that now sort of acts as a large family unit.
Hmm. So let's say that there's a bit of extended family. Maybe your mother's sister has married into with another family in the village, and you're kind of helping them with their planting.
Okay.
And as you say, the planting is a rare resource, so there's only a few trusted planters, and you kind of taken your time out to help them today. When this horrible, high-pitched scream, almost like a person's scream, resounds from the woods near the village. And the birds fly up out of the trees, and out from this tree line comes bounding rabbits and a deer, and just animals are fleeing the woods. And people are beginning to notice and gather around when a massive fat boar comes charging out, and immediately locks eyes with the first person he sees, which is Sybil, who is helping you plant, and begins charging forward.
Garrick positions himself between Sybil and the boar, looking sort of frantically around for anyone to assist.
Unfortunately, the spears, there's only so many, so much copper and tin to make bronze, or even just to make a copper spear. So they're kind of well guarded within the communal storehouse. So you've got your mattock in hand, and of course your abilities. And no one else has a weapon. Everyone else is out who's out around here is tilling, the soil for the next row of planting.
Garrick prepares for the worst. He sort of brings his mattock up high and attempts to read the disposition of the boar, what it wants.
Okay, give me a wisdom roll. Okay, so and just a reminder, in Dungeon World, a 6 or less is a failure. A 7 through 9 is a success at a and it's, used for lamps alongside, rendered fat. So like you've seen oil before, but this is not quite like oil. It doesn't shimmer in the light. It doesn't isn't as thick, but it's also thicker than water or blood. It's not sticky and it's not staining your hands. It almost kind of comes right off as if it doesn't want to attach to anything. It's not even soaking into the snow.
Garrett quickly recorks his drinking pouch.
Mm-hmm.
And says to Sybil, I have to investigate. Not now, but soon.
And she says, well, you've got to take me with you. So I just saved you from that boar, she says jokingly.
And what would the town do with 2 of its 3 farmers gone?
And what are they going to do if they're just gonna yell at us if 2 go away and come back, but if 1 goes away and doesn't come back?
It's true, there is strength in numbers. Meet me here after sundown.
Says, I'm no hunter, but we've got the Maddox, and I could steal my father's knife. After sundown? We go tonight?
I don't think this can wait.
It's okay. And pats you on the shoulder and goes back to helping the villagers are now removing this boar. They're not going to harvest the skin and meat. They said that they're going to burn it beyond the edge of the village. There's the holy man of the village representing... What does he represent? Does he represent a god? Does he say to claim to speak for the spirits?
I think he speaks for the spirits with the context that there is no head religious figure. There's only those that have passed.
So a world of spirits of all kind, but no god in the sort of... It's more like the kami of Japan or the Shin of China, rather than the gods of Greece and mainland Europe.
Right.
Okay. A spirit for everything, and for everything a spirit. So things eventually get back to normal. They missed some of this black blood in the soil where you were tilling, and you can see it seep down into the dirt. The dirt absorbs this liquid easily, but not the snow.
Garrett tills a little deeper than you normally would to try and see if he can follow it down.
It definitely got sucked into this soil at the bottom, but it looks like it's stained it. It's not clumped together, but it's stained black, where before it was at least a rich brown.
Garrick takes a handful and wraps it up and sticks it in his pack.
Okay. Like, you could probably like shovel away this black dirt now if you wanted, or you could leave it and kind of try to plant around it.
Garrick's concerned about whatever happened to that boar spreading, so he leaves it in place aside from taking a sample with the intent of isolating it to that area.
And so you're trying to plant around it, or are you just like ignoring that area entirely? Like not planting?
Just trying to plant around it.
Okay. So, you go through the rest of your average day. There's a lot of talk around the meal times about this boar, and a few people complain. We could smell the burning boar meat. Why couldn't we have skinned that thing and ate it? It would have been delicious. Sick of deer.
It seemed to be infected of some sort. Garrick attempts not to start any new news, but to reiterate whatever has already been communicated.
Yeah, the sort of village, the hetman, the chief. What is his name? Describe him a little bit. Or even like, is the leader of this village? Is it the eldest? Is it the strongest hunter? Is it the spirit man? Spirit shaman. I mean.
The leader of the village is elected by lineage more than anything. That's not to say that he couldn't have come from a different family, but rather that he was groomed from birth by his father, the previous leader, and stands a muscular, tall, sort of young adult.
So he's not an older man?
No, he's being guided.
Is his father still around guiding him, or is he passed? Leaving him all alone in charge?
Unfortunately, there was a terrible accident on one of the last hunts of the previous season that leaves his father bedridden.
Ah.
The now sort of decrepit old man can share words of wisdom, but is clearly at times not all there.
Mm-hmm. So he kind of hears this talk and comes over and says, there was something wrong with that boar. I don't know quite what, but some of the elders looked scared when they saw the black blood. We don't want anyone getting sick. Not like that rabid badger we killed and some damn fool shared with his whole family before they all passed. So
Garrick and the rest of the community are reminded sort of how fragile life can be under these conditions more often than they'd like.
Because we've got plenty of deer. We don't need that kind of trouble. And he's kind of looking off in the distance and squinting, and it's like he's very unsure in his words. They're kind of stilted, kind of stopping. But you seem to obviously agree, and everyone else is definitely kind of taken aback by being reminded of this death.
Garrick nods slowly while sort of eyeing up the rest of the room to see the reactions of the elders.
Probably the four sort of eldest, but still up and about and healthy, mentally and physically, are kind of standing over by the cooking fires and talking like in hushed whispers, including actually, would that include your father as one of the four oldest but still stable?
Just barely. I think he's the youngest of the bunch.
Ah. So the others would call him the baby.
Funny to think of calling a 45-year-old man a baby, but yes.
Mm-hmm. And yet my mother does it all the time. And my brother, so...
Garrick sees the opportunity and excuses himself.
Okay. Yeah, like some of your acquaintances, Sybil and I'd have to actually look at your bonds here. And Wei, looks like Wei. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah, I think so.
W-E-I? Okay. And Wei are they were sitting eating with you, and they notice, like, they definitely glare at you as you get up, kind of suspecting what you're about to do here. But they say nothing.
Garrick slips around the corner, and once he's double and triple checked that there's no one within sight, shape shifts into the shape of some kind of night owl.
Yeah, you can tell that whatever they thought you were going to do, they would never have expected this.
And Garrick the owl now sort of re-enters the vicinity, trying to get close enough to hear what the elders are saying.
Yeah, you can get right up on these thatched roofs. These very, very low roofed buildings. They're more for sleeping and cooking than they are, everyday living. Everyday living is kind of done outside, even in this cold. So you can get right down on these very low thatched roofs and listen in. They're talking about how Tamar, one of the scouts, who looks for kind of like, he leads the way for the hunts. He doesn't hunt himself, but he's out there. He'll catch the occasional meal with his bow, but mostly looks out for large packs of deer and informs the village. He was on a scouting mission, and he found some strange standing stones, and they worry that this could be a dark spirit that followed him back. And they're asking the holy man, asking the sage, the shaman, whatever you want to call him. We should find a name for that, by the way.
I was gonna say the name for the religious man.
Yeah, for kind of his office and maybe his real name as well. Like, is he a sage? Is he a shaman? Is he a priest? What should we refer to him as?
My mental image of the character is sort of that of a witch doctor, although the title may not be so fitting. I think shaman is probably fine.
I mean, maybe he is the village witch. Maybe he calls himself that. Like, with the connotation, like, obviously, they're speaking whatever language they're speaking, but like with this sort of cultural connotation of wise man.
Yeah. I mean, the operative word in witch doctor is, of course, doctor, right? He has the capacity to heal people, or so it's believed within the community. And so while he may be surrounded by symbols of death and other spiritual items. People look to him to keep them from crossing that line.
So, shaman, wise man, do you want to call him doctor? I mean, we are talking about a pre-modern civilization, but the name, the healer, could still mean something to us in this game.
Yeah, maybe town healer.
Okay.
Any kind of non-spiritual healing
okay.
is sort of unknown at this point, or at least not well understood. So
Yeah,
the implication of a healer is that
I imagine it's sort of a mix, right? It's like he's like sucking out the wound, giving you the herb, and telling you how to get rid of the bad spirit all at the same time.
right,
And the idea that those are different doesn't even occur to them.
right, exactly.
And you say you envision him as a witch doctor. Do you mean like he's sort of covered in items, in wards and symbols?
I think so. The character manifests their spirituality through these symbols.
So he says there was something wrong with that boar. I felt it. I felt it in the symbol of ash. And he holds up one of his medallions. Because I could feel the energy from it. Symbol of death. It is good that we burned it, though I fear the smoke may have entered the nostrils of some of our young. We should cleanse them. And
as if Garrick the Owl's eyes weren't wide enough, he widens them further.
Yeah, and one of the other elders, an older woman named Pella, says they're fine. We didn't eat the meat. It won't hurt us. It's just smoke. Most of that was from the wood anyway. It was far enough outside the village. And there's a small argument breaks out between the two. Like, you've ignored my warnings in the past, and it goes, and your warnings have been wrong more often than not, and so forth, until your father says, all right. This is not the issue. The issue is where this boar came from. And if there are more like it. And all of them sort of just kind of look down in a way, really having nothing to add.
Garrick hears the conversation sort of dwindling and changing topics. Retreats back to sort of the other side of the building and shapeshifts back to his normal form. Re-enters the meal.
I imagine sort of eating outside on like benches around the fires, or maybe there's a long hall, maybe something like that, like a big central building where they have meals and important discussions.
Yeah, I think there's a community center sort of space. And Way's like, you were listening in, weren't you? I may have been.
Says, I don't know how you managed to be so sneaky.
Garrick sort of turns away and eyes him and taps his nose.
And Sybil kind of looks at you and like nods toward Way. Head toward that way, looking at you. Like, we should tell him.
Garrick gives her the sort of like, I don't think so symbol. You're like the hand at the neck thing, you know?
Yeah. Anyways, it's like, I don't know what's going on between you two. But hey, if there's trouble, I'm in. He's definitely sort of... and if you don't mind me... actually, yeah, tell me a bit about him. There we go. Tell me a bit about Wei.
Wei is the type of person who's blissfully unaware of the danger and doom and gloom of their current situation. Wei, like the rest of us, was born into this world and knows nothing else, but doesn't see the pain and struggle that everyone else sees, and just sees opportunity. He has visions of making it out of this town. He's heard stories from the occasional wanderer in the summer months of more densely populated places, and thinks that that's his future.
Because certainly, if you'll allow me a bit of metagaming here too, that in this sort of level of technological development, this sort of Bronze Age, there were still places on Earth like and Babylon that were built up with thousands of people, even with this simple level of technology and simple level of building. So there is a possibility for big cities out there.
I think that life sort of exists in this manner for I guess, for lack of a better term, outsiders, right? There are probably pockets within a reasonable travel distance of these little sort of outposts, these outcroppings. But if there were a city per se, I think it's far enough away that nobody has been to one post Frostfall. Everyone is hesitant to set out for fear of not being able to make it back before the winter, which limits transportation.
I'm sure travel is very difficult because this is, before roads. They're well-worn paths in and out of the village, but those are paths to the, to the places where the berries are planted and to other settings, and not necessarily roads at all.
Right.
So navigation's got to be very difficult. So ways like if there's trouble, I'm in. I can help.
Garrick gives a sort of a sly smile to Wei. Looks at him sort of dead in the eyes and says, "If adventure is what you're after, why don't you meet us outside after dark? Out in the pastures."
Says, all right. That's more like it. And goes up to ask for some more, to ask for a second helping. Because I imagine he's probably a big guy, probably a hunter.
Yeah, I mean he's a touch on the young side to be leading any parties, but he's certainly in that world.
So we have, if you'll pardon the minute-ness, I know we're aiming for immersion, but we've got the jock, the nerd, and the girl. So we've got a young adult novel working here.
I suppose so.
With the prep leading the town. Excuse me.
Good thing there's no high school here.
Yeah. And so, the day goes by as every other day has, as most of the spring and summer days have. And everyone sort of goes into their houses and gets ready to wind down and go to sleep at dark. And so after nightfall, which is fairly late in the evening, it is late spring, early summer. You gotta plant late, harvest early, unfortunately due to the snows, but it's after dark, and there's no one out except for one person kind of on the battlements, just looking out, watching, wary of raiders.
The lands that were being tilled earlier when the boar showed up, are those inside or outside the walls?
They're probably outside in little fenced-off areas. Like the inside is mostly for the homes. So there's a big cluster of homes in the middle, because you can kind of see in the top left and right, like they're built very close to each other.
Okay.
And so it's sort of like down here in the lower left where you have a little trench and sort of a Mott Bailey kind of thing. And then outside of that would be the farmland and the pens.
Gotcha. Okay, so Garrick stealthily makes his way in human form out to the meeting spot.
Give me a dexterity roll, because the lookout is a little edgy tonight. All this tales of boars and mad animals coming out of the woods. Okay, so you're able to sneak past the view, but you see Way coming out, and he doesn't grasp the concept of stealth. He's a hunter, but he's much more of a run down the animal kind of hunter, let's say. And steps on a twig, the loud snap, guard turns, grabs the torch from where it was setting and runs up to him and begins sort of, "What are you doing out here, boy? Do you know there's mad boars about? Evil spirits?" And
Garrick waits for... Sorry, go ahead.
I was saying Sybil kind of, you feel this tap on your shoulder and turn around. Sybil sort of surprised you, snuck up on you.
Sybil, you've got to stop doing that to me.
I'm telling you, they should let us hunt. Sneak right up on a deer before it even hears us coming.
Garrick waits for Way to make eye contact and sort of gives an over-the-top symbol to meet on the other side of the of the town.
Unfortunately, it looks like the guard, the sort of watchman, is walking Way back to his hut and having a word with his parents.
Oof. Brutal.
Looks like he's not going to be able to join you tonight.
Well, what do you say, Sybil? Is it time to go?
I had you on the wrong page, didn't I?
Well, there's all the pictures you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
This makes a lot more sense now.
I thought I had transferred you over, but nope. You can see the houses are sort of close together, and you got this low thatched roofs I was talking about. And
Yeah.
this Mott and Bailey setup I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, you describe a beautiful setting.
Okay.
I was mostly there anyway, but...
Okay. Give me a wisdom check to kind of navigate around in the dark. It's maybe you recognize some of these stars, or just being able to see through this dark night. Okay. So where are you heading first?
Well, I want to see what these stones that the elders were talking about are.
Well, you're not sure where those are. You know, it was from the scouting party, so it's probably in the woods a bit. Possibly like an hour or two hike from here. But you're not sure which direction.
Like you'd be looking for days for that.
Mhm.
The boar spoke of a cave. Garrick would be familiar with at least a cave nearby, yes?
Yeah, I mean, probably through your meandering travels, you know, your time spent in the woods learning your powers. There is a I'm trying to think of, because we don't need an exact distance. So I'm going to turn off the grid on this nice world map here, because we don't need exact distances here
Sure.
for the purposes of storytelling. You know there is a cave in the north.
Okay.
A bear cave that the hunters always try to avoid, but they know that if they go there, they can usually find the bear flushing out some boar, or frightening some deer, maybe even some leftover bones that they can use to carve.
Garrick thinks to himself about whether or not bringing Sybil along was a wise choice, but sets off towards the bear cave.
You see that she has her father's knife. It's sort of about the length of your forearm, one solid piece of bronze with a bronze grip and everything.
Wow.
Just poured. You know that this is a rich amount of bronze.
Right.
That your father has a knife that is half as long as this, and it has a wood handle. So this is a kingly amount of bronze almost. You know, her father is the one of the hunting party leaders.
Ah.
Like maybe you guys have big enough for 2 hunting parties. Sort of thing. Like you can set off east and west in case one doesn't get any food. So maybe he's the other hunting party leader.
I see.
Did you say your father was leader of a hunting party?
No, he's I guess the closest professional equivalent would be like a quartermaster. He helps maintain camp and coordinates efforts to reshore parts of the wall and that kind of stuff.
Sort of like a steward.
Yeah.
If this were a castle. So yeah, like you know, her father is like leader of the main hunt. You know, he takes the best hunters. He has the nicest, biggest spear, and all these things. And this has a nice knife. And you know, this is kept sharp, used to skin animals all the time. This is a weapon that can do some damage. And you've got your walking stick. There's nothing to shrug at. It's good, strong timber, but it can't do the same kind of damage. You guys are you know, traveling under starlight, under maybe half moon. There's just enough light to kind of see by. You know it's left of the big pine forest and right of the lake, and not quite to the rocky hills around the mountains. You know, it's hours walk. It's like 2-3 hours. And you think you may have gotten lost and turned around a couple times. It's a long walk.
Ugh. Garrick. So Garrick has a move called Folly. I presume that means that Garrick has a bow.
Well, that's just a move like everybody would get. So if you threw something or if you shot something, you would use the volley move. Just
Okay.
Well, that's weird. You should have a hack and slash move, which is what anybody does whenever they have a attack with a weapon.
I see.
That's weird that you don't have a hack and slash move. I wonder if I could actually transfer it to your character. Allow me to test something real quick.
Sure.
See the wonders of...
Garrick is something of a warrior, so whatever preparations he could make in advance of this journey, he would have.
So maybe if I drag this... No? Well... You don't necessarily need to have that on there. That's just kind of telling you what you can do.
Gotcha.
You can see under the characters tab, there is the hack and slash move. I don't know if you can click and drag that. I could not. Like onto your character sheet. I was unable to. Maybe if I click add and then try to drag it. Either way. So this is a good chance to talk about some of the Dungeon World stuff, like Parlay, Defend, Spout Lore, Aid, Interfere. All those at the beginning are moves that everyone gets, and those are like universal moves that every PC would get. And each allows you to act in a way you would traditionally do in an RPG. So, like Discern Realities and Spout Lore are about like sensing things or about recalling information. Defy Danger is any time something is coming at you. It's basically your saves in D&D terms. And it, much like 5th edition D&D, you would roll a different attribute depending on the circumstance. So like defying danger of being like wrestled would be strength and so forth,
Gotcha.
Yeah, but usually I'll just call for rolls, and so things like melee would be a strength roll, and things like shooting or volley in this case would be a dexterity roll. And I think if you wouldn't mind clicking on the word volley, I want to see if that rolls for you. Nice. It actually even tells you the effect. Yeah, that's one of the things that Dungeon World is very different from a mainstream RPG, is that you always know everything has the same rolling difficulty. The only difference is if it's something like difficult to do, a success has a lesser effect. So like if you wanted to defeat a dragon and you roll your hack and slash, that would just have the lesser effect of doing damage. Whereas if you did something, easy, like tying a knot, then yeah, one roll would be enough to get it done immediately.
Okay.
Yeah, so it kind of does difficulty in terms of output rather than roll. So yeah, so that's why 6 below is always a failure, and 7 above is always some type of success. Okay, so it does take a while. You do get a little lost. I'm going to say that, like, along the way, It's dark. There's some stumbles and falls. Because you rolled an 8 on your wisdom, I'm going to say that along the way you took 3 points of damage along the way. This is just like tripping and like face planting. You've hit some brambles at one point. You're scuffed up.
For somebody who spends so much time outside, you'd think I'd be better at this by now.
It's the middle of the night. No matter how good you are, you're gonna
That's true.
Gonna take some hits. But you finally come across this clearing as the ground turns rocky, and it gets into these stony hills leading up to the mountains, where you know this cave is. And you can just see, from where you're standing, a little bit up the hill, is this cave mouth, this dark mouth entrance, where no starlight is getting in there.
Garrick turns to Sybil. Well, the boar spoke of a cave.
And you can kind of just see like the old bleached bones of a deer kind of spread out on the hill there.
Garrick approaches cautiously.
Give me a dex roll to stealth up there. Okay, so again, 7 through 9 is a partial success or success at a cost. So Sybil kind of says, "Let me go first. I've got the knife." And she pulls out the knife and gets it ready. Says, "I've got the knife. I'll go first, okay?"
Garrick nods.
So she steps up to the side, and she steps on a loose stone that goes rattling down the hill. And like it upsets a nearby owl, and just echoes, off the forest, and just a horrible cacophony in this otherwise quiet night. But you are still standing there in shadow, completely silent, when you hear and then slowly
Garrick looks at Sybil.
she's just frozen there in that moment, like looking at you wide-eyed, and it's like,
Garrick holds still to see what happens next.
okay. And slowly but surely this massive shaggy cave bear. I don't mean brown bear, I don't mean black bear, I mean prehistoric like cave bear. This massive creature just slowly lumbers out and just continues to sniff the air. And it licks its nose and sniffs again. And hasn't quite seen Sybil yet. You can tell that
Garrick,
it's sleepy. It's still got sleep in its eyes, and it's blinking.
Garrick attempts to sort of feel the demeanor of the bear.
Give me a wisdom roll.
Would that be a move or would that be a wisdom roll?
You could do discern realities if you want. which I believe also rolls wisdom. So it's
Yeah, it does.
Sometimes I say the move. Sometimes I just say roll. But in this instance, yeah, you could. We could actually play by the rules and go with these specific questions. So unfortunately, like, you can't tell. Like, this bear is just, all you can tell is the bear is sleepy. Bear is tired. Like, slumped shoulders, head down, eyes half open. Like, that's all you can tell at the moment. Until it turns and sees Sybil. And then goes, and its shoulders perk up, and like it's low with its front paws and high in the back, staring her down. This sort of bark, this sort of howl.
Can Garrick tell what that means?
Yeah, it's definitely very much what the hell are you doing here? It's sort of that you've startled this animal and it's defensive. Like, you would recognize this in a dog or a deer. Your time with animals has taught you this is universally, you best back up.
Yeah. Garrick breaks his cover, and steps out and sort of puts his hands down, palms open, and starts backing away.
Okay.
Hoping to draw the bear's attention. If Sybil is still frozen.
Kind of looks at you and then looks back at her and then looks at you, sees you're backing away, and just locks eyes with her again.
Sybil, come on!
And she's sort of frozen for the moment, and the bear rears up on its hind legs, arms in the air.
Is she moving?
No, she's just frozen with fear, and it looks like the bear is getting ready to swipe.
Garrick sprints forward, and shape shifts into a matching bear.
Okay, Sybil is, like, her initial reaction is, oh god, there's another, wait a minute. And just staring at you with this eyes like, what? Before it was fear, now it is sheer confusion. And she begins to back up and drops her knife. And the bear also kind of drops back down on all fours, looks confused, kind of sniffs, and begins this sort of series of and it's, you can hear in your mind or feel that it's asking, who are you?
I mean you no harm, bear.
Kind of, and then brings its paw up and like smacks at its nose, and you can tell it's saying, you don't smell right. You don't smell like a bear.
That's because I'm not always a bear.
And kind of like throws its head over, like nods over at Sybil, who has not quite fled and just can't look away from this, and licks its lips and growls a little, as if to say, I want to eat her.
Humans make terrible food. Plus, she's friends.
The bear kind of turns, presents its side flank, and raises its arm, and you can see where the hair has sort of gone, and there's this big old scar. And you feel and you hear as it gestures down at the knife, she brings man weapons.
Only to protect herself.
And like waves its head around and kind of paws at the ground, and you can sense that it's saying, "This is my home." Then gestures at her as if to say, "What is she doing in my home?"
We were brought here by a sick boar looking to help.
And Bear gestures out kind of across the woods, and not quite whimpers, but just sort of a low whine, and you can sense that it's saying, since that it's either saying "what boar" or maybe "what did this boar say." You're not quite sure which they're asking.
Only the word cave. He was sick. Black eyes. Black blood.
The bear backs up. You can see the fur sort of stand on end. And it lowers itself down and kind of scrapes on the stone, and then goes, "Arr!" You can tell it's saying, wolves, wolf cave.
Garrick the bear nods and starts to back away. Which direction?
Yeah, the bear sort of looks up at the moon, and you follow their head as they look up at the moon, and then look west. And then look up at the moon again, and then follow and points south.
Garrick nods and says thank you.
And the bear sort of goes back in its cave and comes back out with a deer leg in its mouth, and just sort of presents it to you. And takes its nose and sort of pushes the deer leg closer to you.
Garrick takes it and sort of puts his nose near the cave bear nose, and then grabs the deer leg and wanders back down away from the cave entrance.
Do you approach Sybil as a bear, or do you kind of go off and become human again first?
How dumb do I think Sybil is? I'm gonna go with not very, and just morph back to human form as I approach her way.
She's just kind of makes a sign, sort of like not quite crossing herself, not quite the horns, but a sign to ward off the evil eye, as taught by the healer. Goes, what are you?
The bear says we got the wrong address.
I'm talking to animals, that's weird, and, like, okay, like, Grandma told me stories about people who could talk to animals, but you were a bear.
I don't know what you're talking about.
She's, like, exasperated and, like, what did you do with the deer leg?
I'm still holding it.
Yeah. She points to that. Points to that. Points to the cave. Points at her eye and goes, I have eyes. Like, she just goes, what? You were a bear.
Yeah, and in a little while you'll come to grips with that. But for now, let's just head towards the cave that the bear pointed us in the direction of.
She, like you walk off, and she sort of stands there for a minute. Then just runs up, grabs her knife, and runs to follow you.
By the way, the bear likes your sword. Garrick hollers behind him.
Mm-hmm. So, hey, have you always been a bear?
Garrick chuckles to himself. Doesn't answer the question.
And she just has like a million little questions. Can you turn into a goose? Can you turn into a grasshopper? When did you turn into a thing? Were you born a bear? And just a billion little questions as you walk along. And like the night just stretches on, and it is probably past midnight by now. The moon has already reached its zenith and is starting to come down the other side, and you're kind of following this old hunting trail, these dots on the map, and you see that it curves southeast at some point, along this juncture. Do you want to leave the trail and start going southwest?
Yeah.
Like, this isn't much of a trail. It's sort of just remnants, like tamped down grass of the last hunting party, more than anything else.
It would probably be prudent to wait for a night when I can gather more party members.
Okay.
So Garrick decides to return home and sort of dwell on what the next step should be. Before parting ways with Sybil, Garrick makes sure to tell her that she can't tell anyone.
Says, who would I tell? Who would believe me?
Way might. But definitely don't tell him.
Says, I'm sure next thing you know, he's going to turn into a swan and fly away.
I doubt it.
And you both she kind of goes off on one side to sneak in, kind of like on the other side, away from the lone watchman, before going over the wall. And you come into your hut, and your father is sitting on a bench, waiting for you.
Garrick tries to sneak in the door and then immediately realizes that he's been caught and gives his father sort of a sheepish grin.
And like he quietly gets up, because these are one room structures, you know. So your mother is asleep on one side, and like in the middle is the fire, so that it can go out the top of the conical roof. And so slowly walks around the fire and sort of puts his hand on your shoulder and leads you outside so that you can talk. And just standing outside your door, just far enough away so that you could, you know, not wake your mother. And it's like, I've told you about sneaking out. Where did you go this time?
I had to see about something.
Sometimes you worry me, son.
That boar was sick, Dad. Not the natural kind of sick.
As I know. But I worry about how you knew. The healer says he's had dreams about you. About you walking in the skins of animals in the woods.
It's absurd. Garrick lifts up his shirt to show his dad the sort of large bone bruises he's received in his ribs from the boar today, and he says, I just got a closer look than anybody else. That's how I know.
Because I don't even know what he means, walking in the skins. Of course you're wearing skins, it's freezing outside. But you go off the middle of the night, sometimes even the middle of the day. It's dangerous out there. Some of the hunters, you know, they don't come back when they wander in those woods. Boar, mountain cat, bears. There's many things that hate us. Well, no, they don't hate us. They hate us being in their woods. And yet you travel so freely. And he points at like a bramble scratch. Well, mostly.
The injury smarts a little bit as it's pointed out, and he's reminded sort of the bumps and scratches he's received tonight. I'm always careful. I don't know that I can explain to you what calls me out, but you need to know that I'm always careful.
Sometimes I wonder if you don't have greatest luck in the world, but I don't know. Your old man sees more than you think he does. And maybe one day you'll tell me why those woods call to you so. Come on, let's get to sleep. It'll be dawn soon. I'll cover for you, say the bruises were a bit too much.
Garrick gives his father a smile. Puts his arm around his father as they go inside.
And I think that's a good point to take a little break. It's about our halfway
Phew.
mark here. And I've got to refill my beverage.
Sure.
Throat's getting dry. So Let me just put this here, and I'll be right back.
Okay. Welcome back.
There we go. I'm really interested to see how loud my music I've got playing is on stream. We'll find out. And sort of as part of this sort of intermission here, I just want to take a minute to talk, outside the game. What do you think about this so far, about this format?
I think it's good.
And I definitely want to encourage you to feel free to narrate some. Like I just mean like when I ask you a question, or like when you're doing a thing, feel free to like put some more detail than you might do in like a D&D,
Sure.
And you have been, not on every question obviously, because not every question needs it, but I just want to take a moment to reiterate that.
Okay.
And also I want to take a second to call attention to the fact that you like to say your character does this rather than I.
I don't know. I think it feels more genuine for the type of thing that we're going for.
Sure.
Like we're both storytellers. Like
Yeah.
our first persons are the ones telling the stories about these third person characters, and the first person speech only happens as a necessity, I think. Or at least that's how I perceive the whole.
Mm-hmm. No, there's nothing wrong with that. We're definitely cooperative storytelling. Just taking on different roles in the process,
Sure.
I just found it kind of funny at first, because I know you've made I statements before in D&D, so that's why.
Yeah.
And as you can see, I'm using the rules for just to inform the story, and not for any sort of objective, like test. Like there's not really going to be there's probably going to be, maybe a combat here and there, but even that is going to be more about what does that combat mean for the characters. Like you failing on or succeeding on a stealth test, but not getting a 10. I took into account that you were stealthy, but not Sybil.
Right.
Yeah.
My checks are almost, in some sense, for the party, as much as they are for my personal character.
Yeah, they're for the story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, my stupid taskbar, will not go away. So even though I've got this full screened, you can see all my tabs. Okay. enough talking about that. Let's get back to it, shall we?
Sure.
So, the next day, your father covers for you and lets you sleep in a bit. You know, get some recovery time. And allows you to catch up on your rest. And you're healed back up to full.
Oh, perfect.
You know, you've still got some bruises. You've still got now a little scar on your arm where a bramble cut a little too deep. Not enough to hurt you, but enough to leave a nice little scar.
Sure.
And sort of the next day, after kind of morning chores are done, or afternoon chores, I suppose, Way finds you planting. You and Sybil planting, and goes out to both of you and like puts one arm around each of you and leans in. So what did you guys do last night?
Oh, just a little exploring.
Exploring? Find anything neat? Find anything cool?
Bears don't like to be woken up in the middle of the night.
Bear! Oh man, how did you get out of there?
Shh. Hey.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, lucky for us, he wasn't hungry.
Wow, man. Oh, I wish I could have come along. I would have brought my spear. Bring home a bear skin. Just think about that. So, did you find anything out about this boar?
It seems like the boar sickness can be traced back to a wolf cave.
Wolves, huh?
We're pretty certain we know where it is too, but the night was getting a little long and we figured we should get back.
Says, hey, listen, I don't know about Tamar, man, but I know that he encountered some wolves last time he was out scouting. But the guy's kind of gives me the willies, man.
Really? Why is that?
I don't know, just something about him. He's always seems like he's somewhere else when you're right there talking to him. Like he left something in the woods, you know. He's like always looking out there and kind of looking away when he's talking to you. I don't know. It's weird.
Is that new for him, or has he always been that way?
Oh, as long as I've known him, he's always been that way. But like, even though he's a little weird, you might want to go talk to him because, like I said, he's talked about finding some wolves. You know, he got a wolf pelt when he came back from the last scouting mission. Said he took it down with an arrow.
Thanks for the tip. I'll follow up.
Says, yeah, I gotta get back to tanning some of these hides.
Hey man, don't tan any fingers while you're at it.
And he sort of bounds off back to the other side toward the tanning racks. Where, you know, the deer hides are being turned into leather. Sybil says, so you're not going to tell him about talking and...
No, I'm not going to tell him about that.
You're not going to tell him about talking to a bear. You're not going to tell him about turning into a bear. What else are you telling me?
I mean, I've told you everything. I promise you that.
So are you going after these wolves?
I mean, it seems like we should talk to Tamar first. At least know what we're walking into.
Says, yeah, I guess, but I mean, you doing that today? Or, like, I know I kind of froze up out there, but I want to go back out. That was fun.
A little bit of a thrill seeker, are we?
This is just so boring, planting barley and spelt and digging up earth. Anything's a thrill compared to that.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Says you just let me know, okay?
Yeah, for sure.
My father didn't even notice that his knife was missing.
Well, so far as you know. Mine busted me.
What? I'm surprised he didn't give you a good cuff behind the ear.
What makes you think I didn't get that in well?
Says I don't see a knot on your head for one thing. And you guys kind of just fall back into the old routines,
Yeah.
Planting and, maybe singing a couple of songs that the village knows. Pass the time.
Garrick makes a mental note not to invite Sybil on this next trip.
Okay.
It's for her own protection. I'm sure she could handle herself, but it's just too risky.
So, in the afternoon, you kind of are done planting for the day. You guys are probably 2/3 done with planting for the village by this point, and maybe have another, 2 or 3 days to go before you're probably transferred to do something else. And you have the sort of late in the day to kind of do whatever you want. And, there's probably a meal prepared soon. Everyone pools their resources in the village. It's not necessarily like an enforced thing, but like everyone just tends to do that because they each do a little bit and can't seem to survive without the others.
Sure.
Such a small village.
Garrick goes up for food and keeps an eye out for tomorrow.
You can see him eating just outside the hut, like one of the low. No, I guess there would be no low window, but just outside the door, you can see that maybe he's across from the hut, sitting on one of the benches near one of the open fires, just alone off to the side.
Garrick picks up his food and drink and makes his way over and sits next to Tamar.
Like, he doesn't seem to even to notice you, doesn't react in any way, and you can see that he's like wearing his fur cloak that is now lined with wolf fur, and he has a wolf fang on a thong of leather around his neck. And it looks like he's dressed to go exploring, but you don't think he's scheduled for another hunt until at least 2 or 3 more days.
Garrick does his best to make idle small talk. It's interesting how they prepared the deer this time, huh? I wonder what kind of seasonings they put in it. This tastes different than it usually does. The name's Garrick, by the way. Sorry, you are?
I'm Tamar.
It's nice to meet you, Tamar. It's quite the getup you got there. You going on a hunt soon?
Hopefully.
Say, what kind of animals are those?
You point to his furs?
Yeah.
Okay. Says, it's wolf.
Really? Where'd a guy like you get that?
There's a wolf's den. I found it. We don't hunt there now.
Well, why is that?
So, a boar or a stag alone, we can hunt. Wolves hunt back.
Well, where'd you say this wolf cave was? I just want to make sure I don't stumble into it one day.
Because you're the one who snuck out last night.
Oh, those are some serious accusations. What makes you think that?
I saw you.
Does Garrick recognize the guard from last night as Tamar?
No, the guard was definitely an older gentleman with a beard.
And where did you see me?
From the trees.
You hang out in the trees?
Only at night.
So if you know what direction I went, you already know where I've been.
The bear cave. I'm surprised you came back.
You know how it is. Animals just have a liking for me.
And at that, he turns for the first time and looks you in the eye. No, I don't know.
Say Tamar. I think there might be something going on in that wolf cave. Something worth investigating.
Says, if a hunter had said this, I would warn him that he would die. But you, I don't know.
That you don't, my friend. That you don't. Garrett gets inside Tamar's personal bubble, slaps him on the back. Says, well, it's nice chatting.
He, like, his eyes go a little wide, but his expression doesn't change. Kind of still this flat face, this sort of drawn lips, just completely blank brow.
His way around?
Way seems to be having to do some extra chores because he tried to sneak out. So he will get the leftovers, which is not much. And like all the soup without the meat. Things like that.
Garrett saves some of the meat out of his bowl of soup.
Okay.
And catches up with Way later once he's got a minute to sit down and eat.
Yeah, the sort of the central sort of longhouse or central hut empties out, after the meal, and they bring in Wei and two or three other of the two of the small children and one of the adults who also were doing kind of extra work, being punished. And you can make your way in there. Like there's really no one serving. It's just kind of a big open pot. So people just come up and get what they want. And if someone is overeating and not sharing, then one of the elders might come up to them and say something. But usually people just take one bowl. But by now it's all soup, and the meat's been ladled out, and some of the root vegetables.
Garrick re-enters the sort of communal area, finds Wei and sits down and dumps the leftovers, the chunks of meat and other things from his tray into Wei's soup, and sits across from him at the table.
He goes, thanks. I would say yeah, but I snuck out on my own, so I guess got nobody to blame but myself.
Yeah, always looking out,
Said, I wish you distracted that guard, though. I don't know, threw a rock, pretended to be a wolf or something.
Wow. What was I going to do? Give myself away too? And then we both get caught? You got to work on those sneaking skills, man.
I don't need to sneak up on anything. I can just run it down. I should have just ran for it. They couldn't catch me.
That's probably true. Hey, I talked to Tamar. He is a ghastly guy. You weren't kidding. But anyway, he spoke about the wolf cave, and I think we should go take a look.
So wolves, man. I don't know. I mean, you know me, I'm always down for the hunt, but wolves are rough, man.
Yeah, I understand, but
Grandpa lost 3 fingers on his left hand to a wolf.
I'm telling you, man, whatever happened to that boar has something to do with that cave, and I don't know what, but it can't be good long term.
Says, well, if you're going, I guess I don't have any choice.
I knew you'd come around.
So you're going to have to help me sneak, though, okay?
Sure thing.
Because if they catch me one more time, man, I'm going to be digging ditches for a month.
Let's give it a little while. Let's let things cool down around here. Everybody's sort of on edge.
Says, yeah, but next week is the next big hunt, though. So it's got to be kind of soon, or I'm not going to be able to go with you. I'm going to be out there in the woods.
That's true. Tomorrow night, then.
Says, yeah, I think I can do it. Yeah.
Oh, don't tell Sybil.
Wait, why weren't we telling Sybil? She went with you last night. Did something happen? Did you two kiss?
No. But she froze up. And I can't have somebody like that in a dangerous situation. It's just not safe for her out there.
He goes, yeah, I guess, but I guess. I know some hunters like that. But I mean, we got them used to the hunt and gave them another chance, and they were all right. Even if you don't take it this time, maybe she'll go on an adventure with you some other time. You know?
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's like, it's
I just
Sybil,
think-
we can't leave her out of our adventures forever.
Yeah, I just think this one's might be a little too much, you know? We'll ease her into it.
Says, you're always protecting her. You're sweet on her, aren't you?
Hey man, I don't know what you're talking about.
He's basically whatever your tribe's version of KISSING, playing around, goofing.
Garrick reaches into Way's soup, takes a chunk of meat and says, I'm taking this back. Eats it, and takes off.
Sort of as you are going back about the day, as you're leaving the communal house, actually, the healer comes up to you, just kind of appears around a corner. Because I know you've been sneaking out, boy.
Yeah, but I mean, like, what kid doesn't, right?
Said, I don't know what you are, but you're no kid. I've seen it in my dreams. As soon as I can convince the others, we'll cleanse this town of whatever spirit has tainted your soul.
Garrick raises an eyebrow. And what might that be?
Because I do not know. Not yet. But I will drag that spirit from you, and I will confront it face to face. I swear by the sign of Azor. And holds up one of his many amulets. This one made of a blue stone, carved with some sort of symbol.
Garrick sighs, sort of somewhere between exasperated and forlorn about the situation.
And he doesn't prevent you from walking by, but he just goes, I will find the name of that spirit.
Garrick thinks to himself and hopes that he doesn't. Because he wouldn't trade his powers for anything.
Yeah, the
Walks
words,
past and
certainly I can see how they could bring you pause. You still do not know the source of your powers. And
But if I'm under control, how can they be a bad thing?
sorry, I had
Internal
to-
monologue.
Yeah, and that one in first person. Sorry. So the days pass. There's not much special in village life. You know the routine, same as last year, same as the year before. Not much changes except during the times of the hunt, when there are revelries and sometimes strange new animals brought in from the edges of the woods. But a day passes, and then the next, and before you know it, it's time for your late night escapade. The whole time, Sybil has been bugging you every now and again. You gonna go back out?
Yeah, I'll let you know. It's just not time yet.
Says, you better let me know. Like, it's not like we're going to square off against another bear. I'll be all right. So heck, if I froze up with the bear, now I've met the worst thing in the woods. So, I'll be all right. I'll be fine.
Garrick plays along.
And Way's like, man, I don't know about not telling her. But hey, I think I can get my father's spear.
Definitely. Bring it.
I've seen that thing thrown from, gotta be 20, 30 feet, took a boar straight down. And before you know it, it's time for you guys to head out. And this time you kind of know what you're doing.
Sure.
And know so it's a trivial matter to get out there and escape the watchers, slip out into the woods, and then there's just the matter of finding this thing. You know generally where it is. You kind of, Tamara sort of gestured at an area, and the bear gestured at an area, and you think you can figure out where that is. But give me a wisdom roll to see if you can narrow it down before too awful long. Yeah, I mean, it takes a while, but you eventually stumble upon a clearing with a series of standing stones. These stones are massive, and they look jagged and rough on the edges, like natural stones, but standing up at odd angles in a circle. And you can see what looks like maybe dried berry juice on one, or something, some sort of blue pigment, deeply, deeply faded on one, and a bit of red pigment on another.
Garrick turns to Way. Hey, you ever seen this before?
He's like, no. Is this like, did there used to be like another village here?
I don't know, man. Garrick takes a step forward and enters the circle.
You immediately feel a chill run up your spine. Hairs in the back of your neck stand up.
Garrick narrows his gaze, sort of tries to discern what. I mean, if there's any kind of. Well, here's an interesting question for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is there a written language?
Well, if it's up to me to decide, I would say there probably is, like very early. It's like those are the symbols that they wear around the healer's neck. And it's like they combine those symbols to like maybe commemorate the dead. Like put those on rocks. Maybe that's the earliest sort of thing.
Garrick does his best to see if he can discern any kind of meaning or form of the markings, the faded markings.
Okay, give me a discern realities check. Okay, so you get one question here answered. So either from this list or any question of your choice. So you wanted to know if these resemble your written language?
Yeah.
It doesn't look like it. It looks like they are maybe like you can sort of see where like if you continued this line and you connected it to that one, they're kind of like shapes of animals. Like stylized, but general outline that you would recognize. Oh, that's a stag, and oh, that's a wolf, and that's a bear.
Is there a boar?
You don't see a boar.
Are there any other tracks through this area?
It's hard to say. The ground here is sort of stone and moss. You don't see any, but you do see some around outside the circle of stones, but none inside the circle. The tracks outside look like maybe deer, maybe a young boar. And you hear off in the distance,
Garrick turns away. Must be more close.
do you,
Garrick stops to sort of take in the circle, sort of trying to capture from memory the setting, and continues on towards the howl.
kind of as you're studying to see, like, memorize it, you notice that there's a space, like an extra space between two of the stones. Like, much wider than the space between any of the other stones.
Does it look like there used to be a stone there?
Yeah, the grass there is not as high as the grass around it. Kind of in the shape of a rectangle. Like maybe like the base of one of these big stones.
Much to Garrick's dismay, I think it's at this point that Sybil enters the the setting.
Oh, okay. So you hear something moving in the underbrush in the woods outside the stone circle.
Garrick draws his mattock and looks.
And Way's like, hear that? There's something out there. And he readies his spear. And like he is like creeping closer, and he's about ready to throw it when you notice that it is Sybil.
Garrick waves off Way. Stop!
And Sybil looks up and sees the spear and goes, "Ooh, jeez, don't scare me like that."
What are you doing here?
I followed you. I thought you were going to tell me when you're headed out.
I tried to warn you. It's not safe.
She says, the winter's not safe. We might not make it through that. You don't come check my fire every 5 minutes. I can take care of myself.
Well, I guess we'll find out, won't we?
Says, did you
Say, what do you make of
that
this?
howl? You both like ask that at the same time and then repeat each other's question. and then like she goes over to the area there, goes, looks like those kind of look like if there were stones for a really big house. Like it's round like our huts, right? Our huts are made of like little small stones. Imagine a hut made from these big stones. So, but they're missing one.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Is that the door?
If you look, you can see there's these animal shapes.
She says, that looks like, you know, the harvest festival, right? My mother makes up paints out of the berries and mixes them up in different colors and kind of paints the kids' faces. Do you remember that? You had that blue cloud drawn on your face when you were a kid?
Yeah, of course.
It's kind of like that, isn't it? They're drawing.
But by who?
I don't know. And Wei says, Tamar out here building himself a house?
At the mention of Tamar, Garrick stops to scan the tree line. As he's now vaguely convinced that Tamar sees everything.
Let's see here. Probably a wisdom check on that. You do notice a very large sort of figure perched high on one of the pine trees, kind of overlooking the stone circle. Like that's either a very large owl or maybe someone is following you.
Garrick points his finger directly at the spot and says, Tamar, you get down here.
And you see the figure kind of like start to fall backward and then catch itself. It's like, whoa! And slowly starts to descend and walk over to you. How did you know I was there?
Well, it's funny, I wouldn't have until Wei mentioned you. But I knew once you knew where we were going, you couldn't resist.
This is where I found the wolf. And he tugs on the wolf skin of his cloak.
Tamar, you've been around the world a bit. What do you make of this?
As I asked the elders once, they said there were strange men in the mountains. They built stones like these many generations ago. Other than that, I do not know.
I wonder what for. So much effort goes into standing these things up, don't you think?
And Sybil kind of walks over and looks at one of the others that has a green pigment on it that you hadn't noticed before. Like one of the small ones, right? It's like maybe 4 foot tall. Looks like it broke off in half. And the other part of it is just kind of loose stone, like it's shattered. And she says, "Look at this. If you go from here, and you gotta go all the way up, and if it went like the opposite way, it would look like the symbol of Azure that the healer wears."
You think he stood these up?
Arrow. She says, and Wei says, the healer can barely lift his own walking stick. I don't think he could build these things. And Tamar pipes up, They're very old. My father told me about them. He told me a story that they were put there to guard the spirits. I don't believe in the spirits.
Hmm. Maybe that cave will tell us more. Samara, the three of us are headed off to the wolf cave. Would you like to join?
You notice he's carrying what looks like a walking stick. And he like loops his leg around one end, grabs the other, and pulls it down and attaches a string to either side and makes into a big like yew longbow, like a 6 foot tall bow. And says, yes, I would.
I thought you might. Alright, here we go. Eric leads the party towards the cave.
So you walk past this lake. It's serene and beautiful, and you can hear toads chirping, and you can hear crickets giving off their tune, and a few owls. Occasionally, one like dives down and tries to grab a fish, only to realize that it's actually farther down and just gets stuck in the water for a second. And beyond that, you go back into the Stony Hills, in a place that is much darker, more heavily forested than the cave. So you're going roughly whoops. That's right, freehand. There we go. Kind of like up and then over. That's the standing stone over by the lake, and then into the hills.
Garrick, before entering this more heavily forested area, makes a note to orient himself with the stars to the best of his ability anyway. With some hope of being able to orient himself.
Kind of tell that like if you head straight east, like if you look at the moon, as long as you can see the moon, you could probably find east. And if you go that way, you'll eventually stumble upon the Hunter's Trail.
Gotcha.
Pardon me. But it's forested, and rather than going up a hill and being a cave, this cave is down low. It is a low warren, but it's a kind of a big cave mouth. It's like 3 of you could stand side by side and walk through this thing. It's big, and it's like low in the very foothills of the mountain.
I look at the rest of the party. What do you guys think?
Way is kind of like he tightens his grip on the spear, then loosens and tightens again. He goes, I'm ready. Yeah, I'm ready. And Sybil takes out the knife, says, I won't let you down this time. I swear. And Tamar doesn't say anything. He just grabs an arrow from his hip and knocks it into the string of his bow and kind of takes aim and nods at you.
Garrick proceeds into the cave. Party intel.
Do you have any sort of light source?
Yeah. Garrick would have brought with him the supplies to create a makeshift torch of some kind.
Like a little bit of like rag soaked in fat and like a flint and steel or flint and rock.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you spark up a torch, and as you kind of walk toward, and the light from the torch reaches the sort of back of this cave entrance, you hear, and Sorry, I'm having to yell at my dog every now and again.
You're good.
Like 4 wolves pad out slowly and kind of take flank around the edge of the cave mouth. And then you see this blue spectral light begin to emanate out. Like it's very faint. Like your torch will even drown out this light. But you can see it originating from like a twist in the cave. And slowly padding out is this massive, like, silvery blue looking wolf. That is, the maw is in a snarl, and it's just dripping this black ooze. And it like looks at each of you and looks up and
This wolf's got to die.
Yeah, and the wolves join it. And it begins to speak in your language, out loud. Like you don't even realize for a moment that anyone else can understand it until you notice that they're all reacting with shock. Pitiful little humans. My children will feast tonight.
You can speak?
I am spirit of wolf. I can speak, I can kill.
I know where you reside.
I reside in all my children. In every fang. In that fang around your neck. Looks at Tamar. We will wear you like furs in the winter.
Garrick snarls, and sort of bares his teeth in response.
Says, you think you are wolf?
Maybe more than you.
It begins to laugh, this kind of barking laugh. And the wolves kind of join in, and you can see 2 more pad out. And they're kind of standing in front of this massive wolf, snarling and growling. And Sybil steps forward with her knife and takes a swipe at the front wolf, and it kind of backs up and whines for a second, and you hear the sound of Way's bronze spear hitting the stone on the ground as he drops it, and just like turns and begins to run.
Ah. Garrick takes up the spear.
Wolf says, "Man weapon cannot kill me."
Don't make your young die first.
And you can actually, kind of as you focus on the young, you can actually tell that they are frightened. Like they're not angry, they're not like ready to pounce, they're not defending, they are frightened.
Mm-hmm.
You notice that while their teeth are bare, their tails are between their legs, and they're like a couple of them are peeing. and some of the black ooze kind of drips onto the fur of the lead wolf, and you see that it slowly slides off into the dirt and leaves the fur white where it touched.
Do not use your lessers to fight your battles. My problem is with you.
It barks out a command, and as it kind of begins to bark, you can see the Sybil and Tamar back off. But you hear it in your head, and you recognize that this is something happening only in your head, and you're like hearing it in wolf speak. Stand back. And they part and go behind him. And as they go behind, kind of out of the large wolf's field of vision, they stop snarling and kind of get low on their front legs.
Make your move.
And this giant wolf just goes and like lunges for you, like just not even giving a hint away, lunges for you and tries to wrap its massive maw around your waist. And this thing has got to be like 7 feet tall. Not standing on hind legs, 7 feet to the shoulder. Massive wolf. And tries to wrap its jaws around your waist. Give me a defy danger roll, rolling, dex or strength, your choice. Depending on how you want to avoid this. Did that add dex to that?
Yeah.
Okay. So the jaw snaps shut around a piece of your tunic, and it rips and tears away as you leap back, leaving a big hole in your tunic. And it spits it out, and leaving a massive gob of this black goo on it and on the ground. And you can see that it hits the ground and steams, and the grass begins to turn this dark violet around it.
After stepping out, Garrick steps back in and lunges, sort of a hip-based thrust with the spear.
Okay, make a strength check, hack and slash roll, which you don't have hack and slash, so just a strength check will do. Okay, now give me a damage roll. Your damage is class-based, so it should be on your character sheet. Yep. So you jab this thing, and it doesn't go into the chest as you kind of aimed it, but it goes kind of off and cuts a section of the flesh, and you can, when it hits, you're like, you know that this is a corporeal creature and not just some phantom spirit, even though it's glowing the silvery blue. And
Garrick calls out to Tamar and Sybil. Says, now!
Tamar looses an arrow that slams into the side of this thing and begins oozing black blood. And Sybil goes forward and slashes at it, leaves a cut on its lip, and it comes back and snaps its jaw shut on Sybil's arm. She cries out, drops the knife in pain, and he begins sort of just shaking his head back and forth. You can hear the sound of something pop in her arm.
Oh. Garrick thinks to himself, trying to think if there's a creature larger than the cave bear he met the other night.
Not that you would have ever seen. You've heard stories about big, woolly creatures with massive tusks, but you've never seen one.
Cave bear it is, then. And he shapeshifts.
As you begin to shift and change, Tamar kind of stares at you, letting an arrow just fall to the ground. And Sybil says, Yeah! Get him! And you hear the sound of Way screaming as he is running at full speed and just goes charging at the wolf and jumps on its back and grabs it, and the wolf begins trying to shake him off and throws him to the ground, turns to you and says, You are Spirit Walker, Skin Changer. Says, You are the reason I am here.
I brought you here, and I will provide your exit.
Because you try to save your people, says I try to save mine. And he transforms into a human. And you can see that he's wearing a fur, like a very simple, rough, skinned leather with bits of fur, loincloth, and otherwise is not wearing any other clothing and is like marked on the body with blue and red pigment forming patterns. And and with blue pigment sort of smeared over his eye, so it looks like a band of blue going across, and reaches back and pulls out a stone knife. Says, I will fight you as mankind, just as you fight me as bear. You can see that he has cut most of the hair away. Like very roughly, you can see scars and things, but like has hair on the back of his head that is this silvery blue. And charges at you with the stone knife. Give me one more dexterity check.
Do you want to defy danger or just a dexterity?
Either or. Yeah, so you easily sidestep, like, and just swipe at him as he goes, and sending him tumbling over. He says, You are strong, bear. Good. Will you save bear, or will you save man? And just sort of circles you with the knife out. Like kind of feeling it out, and like one of the wolves like runs up. Tamar takes it down with an arrow. Way is back on his feet. And he takes up the mattock you dropped to grab the spear. And he's like awkwardly holding it. And like kind of keeping one of the wolves at bay.
Am I getting the impression that he wants me to form back to human to fight? Or is he offering me an ultimatum to save the bear or the humans?
How would you go about asking him that? Like, obviously, you can't just come out and have a civilized conversation, but
What would you have me do?
because I was man once too, but I found wolf blood in veins, so I protect wolf. You have bear blood in veins, so you should be protect bear, not these pitiful ones. Cannot survive winter.
There is a balance. I serve to protect the balance.
So there is no balance, only predator and prey. So we shall see who eats who when we are done.
Garrett, the bear, swipes at the painted man.
All right, give me a strength roll. So you swipe down at him, and the claws just rake down. Give me a damage roll. So as the claws rake down and bleeds, you can sort of see almost like you're unzipping him. He starts to turn into a wolf as the claws rake down his human form. And as this massive wolf, he says, You are obviously bleeding this black blood. He says, You are no bear. You smell wrong.
I am no bear.
He says, Then what are you?
I am whatever suits me.
He says, You have more than one skin?
How many times can I shapeshift in a particular window?
I do believe that it is largely unlimited.
Garrick shapeshifts
check
into a
something.
wolf at this point.
Oh, I see. We were doing shapeshifting a little wrong, but we'll know that next time. That you roll for your shapeshifting, and you get an X number of turns before you shapeshift back into something else,
Oh.
into your normal form.
Okay.
So I'm gonna have you do that now, just to find out how many more. Just click shapeshifter, and it'll roll for you. It should tell you everything. Yeah, down at the bottom it says spend one hold to make that move associated with your new form. Once you're out of hold, you return to your natural form. Anytime you may spend all your hold and revert to your natural form. So you have 3 moves that you can make as a bear now.
Ah.
And if you don't mind, I'm going to expand Born of the Soil real quick, just to double check that one. Yeah, wind shapeshifting. You also choose a tell, and we'll deal with that. And some sort of RP. But yeah, so you've taken 2 actions as a bear. You swiped at him, and then you swiped at him again. You like dodged his stone knife and swiped at him. So you've got one more action as a bear. Or you can try to roll again and turn it into something else.
Yeah, I'm gonna revert and shapeshift again.
Okay. Spin that one hold. And now you got 2 moves as a what? What do you turn into?
A wolf.
This is no. This cannot be.
I have many forms. I serve to protect the balance.
She told me that we had one form, one duty, that I was wolf blood.
Who told you this?
She's princess of winter. And then vomits up this sludge ball of black and then falls over dead. And the wolves let out a howl and begin to back up as the form slowly disintegrates into black ooze.
While still wolf, Garrick trots over to Wei. In in the least aggressive form he can imagine, and jumps up and grabs the mattock with its mouth.
He goes, ah!
And then at that point, Garrick transforms back into human Garrick.
He goes, what? And then halfway through, sort of just falls straight back, passed out cold.
Garrick turns to Sybil and says, well, I guess the cat's out of the bag now.
You can be a bear too? Or you can be a wolf too?
Yeah, it seems like anything that I know well, I can change into.
So what you, as a shapeshifter, you have a tell that all your forms have one thing in common. What is your tell? It could be something like the eyes are the same, or a mark on a certain place, or maybe distinct hair color. So what did Sybil notice was common between your bear and wolf form?
Garrick, through his earlier lifetime trials and tribulations, is actually missing one of his fingers.
Oh.
And as such, on his left hand, paw, etc., there always is a missing finger or
Which finger?
finger-like appendage.
Which finger? That's the classic question. Which finger would you like to lose?
Middle one.
Okay. And she notes as much. The bear and the wolf were both missing the same finger. So if you're telling me if a crow lands on my shoulder and it's missing one of his little toes, that's you?
Probably. I mean, it could also be a crow missing a toe, but odds are good.
And you notice the sound of a bow being pulled taut behind you.
Garrick puts his hands up and turns around slowly to face Tamar.
And Tamar has an expression that on anybody else would be mild annoyance. But on Tamar, it's the closest thing you've seen to anger. It's just, what are you?
I don't know, Tamar. I honestly don't know.
Have you killed a hunter?
No. Absolutely not.
Not in any of your forms?
Tamar, I don't know if you've looked around in recent years, but if anything, the balance is tipped against us. We've lost men on hunts. That balance I spoke of earlier. At this stage, only serves to strengthen our own kind.
And he slowly begins to let the arrow or let the string go loose. Slowly return the arrow back to its position. It says, I don't know whether to hunt you or hunt with you. I will keep your secret for now, but I will be watching you.
Garrick nods, and as a sort of a sign of acknowledgement for both Tamar's efforts and his willingness to keep his secret.
And now you have a new bond with Tamar, which actually, if you want to delete that, one of the alternatives, yeah, feel free. Yeah, that's funny.
The default bond for anybody who's listening along for this particular field happens to be me and blank are tracking the passage of a terrible monster through this land, which is quite accurate for me and Tamar's relationship at this moment.
But you can either go with that, or you could say, doesn't know whether to hunt you or hunt with you. Because I'm particularly happy with myself for that phrase. Particularly
Sure,
pleased
as
with
you
myself.
should be.
And if you kind of want to add next to Sybil and Wade that they know your secret, kind of just in their little boxes there. Ah, yeah, that's a nice way of showing it. Yeah, little S. So as the wolf form begins to disintegrate into black goo, when it finally seeps away and spreads out, there is a human form in the middle of it. And the thing that it coughed up begins again. The goo begins to slowly spread out, and in it was a chunk of stone that you can see some red markings on.
Do the red markings mean anything to me?
No, it looks like it's kind of like part of a larger image or larger word or larger symbol. But it's like a softball sized chunk of stone.
Sure.
It's pretty large.
Garrick pulls a scrap of tanned hide from his pack, uses it to pick up the rock and place it into his pack.
It kind of drips goo as you do that, but you're able to get it contained. The goo, as you can see, it begins to seep into the soil, and the stalks of bushes nearby turn black, and the leaves of the bushes turn this dark violet, like dark, like reddish purple. Or purplish red, I should say.
Garrick turns to Sybil and says, well, I guess we're going to have to clear away a larger area near that spot where the boar died.
And Tamar sort of like just pokes at the goo, the end of his bow. And Wei finally comes to and says, "Why am I covered in goo?"
What's the last thing you remember?
He goes, "Well, there was." His eyes go wide, and he jumps up on his feet. You were a thing. You were a thing. And
Correct.
Turns to Sybil and goes, "He was a thing, wasn't he?" And she goes, "He was a thing."
I'll let you in on a secret. Then I was another thing.
And he starts like listing off questions, and Sybil goes, "I asked him that. I asked him that too. I asked him that too." And gets to, "Have you always been able to do this?" And she goes, "You never did tell me."
No, honestly. I discovered this ability, whatever it is, only months ago. It's a good thing I did, too, given how the last couple of expeditions have gone. But I don't understand it, and I don't know where it comes from. So, unfortunately, I can't answer most of your questions.
She says, "A couple of months ago, wasn't there like a weird fire a couple of months ago? Way out here in the mountains?" So I think my father was on watch that night. I don't know. He said something about a weird fire way up in the mountains. Just light of some kind, like someone burning a bonfire. I don't know.
But what could a fire up in the mountains have to do with me?
So I don't know. I just thought of it. We're in the mountains, and that guy's weird, and those stones are weird, and the fire was weird.
Yeah, that's fair. Garrick makes a mental note to sort of file that away to investigate at a later time.
And
I
tomorrow
think the bigger problem here, though,
Hmm?
is what that wolf man was talking about. He said the princess? Priestess?
Princess.
Princess, thank you. He said the priestess of winter sent him to...
Princess. Princess.
Yeah, that's what I said. Anyway.
You said priestess.
Oh.
Pries. It's a Freudian slip, I guess, or something. I don't know.
The princess... He says the princess of winter sent him to... For me? But why? Did he mean me? Did he mean us?
Tamara says, "I don't know, and it is very late. Let's go back to the village."
Yeah, I think it's time. Garrick snags the not haunted wolf that Wei killed earlier,
Hmm.
and throws it over his shoulders. And carries it back.
So one thing I forgot to note is at one point you failed a roll. In Dungeon World, you gain experience by failing rolls. So every time you fail, you get a point of XP.
Oh, okay.
And I do believe it's, I think, 10 XP to get to the next level.
Okay.
Something like that. Current level +7.
That'd be 8.
Um, yes, it would. So you guys come back and there's definitely the questions of like, where did you go? Why do you have a wolf? And just like everyone, Tomorrow Way, Sybil, they all look to you for the story. Like, what are you going to tell them?
We snuck off. For silly reasons, really. Just time to be kids without adults. Garrick is like 16, probably.
Yeah.
And we came across a wolf.
Your father sort of like puts his head in his hands and like, I don't know what to do. And one of the elders, Pella, the older woman, says that's a very adult answer for a young man. She's not sure whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but and like Way's father is furious. Like, you what? With my spear?
Garrick brings the wolf and over and sets it in front of Way's father. And says, Way killed this wolf. If it weren't for Way...
You remove the arrow from it first.
Yeah. If it weren't for Way, things could have gone much worse for us. We were lucky to have him with us.
He kind of grumbles. No, we'll talk about this. And kind of just snatches up the wolf from you. So
I look at Way and wink.
Morning. And he's like, kind of gestures off to his father, like, oh boy.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those nights for all of us.
And I think that is the end of this particular story.
I'm not dead.
No, you're not. And there's actually a move called End of Session, where we award some extra XP. Specifically, like, if you fulfilled any bonds. See, did you fulfill any bonds? I'd say you fulfilled the bond with Sybil. You definitely showed her another secret right of the land. And do you want to replace that with something? Do you have some other like update to your relationship with Sybil?
What is our bond? Maybe that Sybil and I share a...
And this doesn't have to be positive necessarily. It can be negative. It can be complicated.
Sybil aims to prove herself as a combatant, and very much did so in the night. Maybe the bond is that Garrick is teaching Sybil to bring out her inner courage or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
We can revise later, but something in that ballpark.
Yeah, just basically the bonds are usually like a sentence or two, so it can be something simple like that. Yeah, I mean, it would definitely be something that's simple but foundational. You know, that definitely does lend itself to a story and to a relationship.
Sure.
So if you want to like note something down there for Sybil under that box, and that means you get an extra XP for that. And actually, I'm gonna mark these down. I'll tell you the total when we're done. Way. I don't know. You guys went on adventures together, but I don't know if your bond has really been you say you're both bound by blood brothers sort of thing. I don't know if that was really tested this time around.
I mean, if Wei has the same bond, he definitely did so by running away and then coming back.
Sure.
But I don't think that had anything to do with me.
Well, I mean, it's just about your relationship with them, not necessarily you, but we'll leave that for now. You added a new bond. We'll eventually be introduced to Nils and Pellin. So now there's a series of questions, 3 questions that you would answer like as a group. But since it's just 2 of us, did we learn something new and important about the world? I think we did.
Yeah, for sure.
I think we definitely did. So it's another. And did we overcome a notable monster or enemy? Yes, I'd say so. That's quite notable. Be one thing if it was a regular wolf, but shape-shifting spirit wolf.
Would you say he's a big bad wolf?
Yes. And finally, did we loot a memorable treasure? Not this time.
We got that stone. We just don't know why if it's valuable in some way.
Yeah, so that's 1 for failure and then 3 for the... So yeah, that's 4. Should have 4 XP.
1 for failure, 1 for bond, 2 for...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty. So that is the end of session. And once we get to 7, we'll level up a bit. So what did you think about the format and the adventure and all that?
I thought it was good. I'm definitely interested to see where the story goes. I may decide that next session I decide to take a first person instead of a third person perspective.
No, I was just asking about that. I didn't mean to tease.
No. It's tricky when you first introduce a character that you don't really have a strong concept for yet to speak in a first person. Because how do you declare in first person how the character feels or what they're doing? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think the character is fleshing out very quickly in my mind, and so it's much easier for me to speak comfortably in the first person. So that may be a switch going forward. I started doing it at the end, and then I realized that I was going to confuse everyone by talking in third person the whole session, and then starting to talk in first.
Confusing everyone by what you mean, just me.
Yep.
I don't expect any viewership on this, just doing a thing.
Hello, future viewers.
Yeah.
Is that how that works?
Hello, me in 20 years. But no, I think I really enjoyed the amount of immersion and I feel like I sort of lost steam toward the end personally. So maybe we might do a little shorter session next time. But I enjoyed like the minimal amount of table talk.
Yeah.
Like I think that's very fun. It definitely scratches an itch that is hard to do around the gaming table.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But if you have any questions, concerns, the drill. Feedback is appreciated.
Yeah, of course.
More of this, less of that. Is always the best way,
For a collaborative storytelling game in a system we haven't played in a while, I think that session went about as well as it could be expected to go. So,
only made 2 small rule errors, and they were quickly dealt with. It's a very nice, simple system. Lends itself well, I think, to this type of storytelling.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Well, that was fun.
Yeah.
Goodbye, stream.
Bye.